There we go. Okay, and before I introduce Rhonda here, I do want to say we're delighted to be able to continue the conversation after the films due to a couple of organizations, state organizations, the Rhode Island State Council for the Arts and the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities. Both are such essential associations, organizations in our cultural community here, and we would not be able to do what we do, and so many other organizations as well, if it weren't for their efforts, both somewhat financially, but also just the moral support and helping us get us through one of the most difficult years. And we're very appreciative for their assistance. And also, I want to say a shout out to the Providence Community Library. We've been doing an associated program with the community library for a while. I mean, maybe since the beginning of the fest 12 years ago. It's one of our favorite organizations to couple up with to do programming. I don't know if I've seen another organization be as involved with as many parts of the community in Providence than the Providence Community Library. They are in every nook and cranny of Providence, and it's just a wonderful organization to do programming with, because I've learned more about the city by doing events with the Providence Community Library, and they are well represented here today. So now it gives me a great pleasure now to introduce I want to say the producer. Is producer accurate, Rhonda?
I am the outreach director for cafeteria culture in general, and I did just about everything. And I did outreach for the movie as well.
And outreach. Okay, so yeah. Outreach director for cafeteria culture. That was a question I got coming up. But Rhonda Kaiser.
Yes.
Rhonda Kaiser, delighted to have you back. We had you here last year. We did a Q&A at one of the community libraries, the Southside Community Library, and that was one of our very popular films and Q&As afterwards. And it was so popular that we wanted to invite your film back and you back because you were the last live event we had before COVID hit. That was our last memory. It's been a year since I remember being with crowds, not thinking about wearing masks or social distancing. And it was a week after you left, it was all of a sudden things just came closing down, and we're like, wow. So you are my last great memory of being able to handshake somebody and I've talked with them without a mask. So yeah, so I'd like to introduce Rhonda and Rhonda Kaiser.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. You are also my last great memory of being around crowds and et cetera. And our family's last big trip we took, because my whole family came with me, and we really enjoyed being here and seeing the movies. It's such a great festival, and your programming is incredible, really incredible. So thank you. We're honored to be back.
It's great. Our program is only as good as the ones who come and the ones who send it in. And Microplastic Madness is something we were very proud to show. That really hit a lot of points of what we really aim to find and to promote, because that hits so many different directions. So yes.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And for me, it's the same. Working with cafeteria culture has been that for me, being able to be part of environmental education, and how much environmental education is so far reaching, because you can reach students who really are our future. But in addition to that, we're not just teaching students about facts to do with the environment or pollution. We're teaching them facts and then giving them an opportunity to act on those facts, so that there's no, our students generally don't have eco grief or that kind of thing when being confronted with all of these really horrendous and depressing facts, because they're always having victories. So we teach our students all of this information about the environment, but their questions and aha moments lead to our next lesson plan. And so that it's sort of inquiry-based learning in that way, so that their questions lead to their next actions, but their answers to the questions often come in the form of victories. So that's what's so exciting. And that's what we wanted to share. We were hoping to share that sort of infectious sense of, the addiction to victories. And these kids are they're putting it out there, they're getting nervous, but they're sharing they're learning, basically. They're not protesting. although it is sort of a form of protest. But what they're doing is they're pushing back and they're saying, but did you see this information?
Right.
And often having, we've been thinking a lot about activism in the era of Joe Biden, in the era of, decision makers and legislators who are on our side, right? But they still have to be pushed because there's still a certain amount of, big money in politics, and the people still have to push them. So we've been thinking that, in general, protests have to turn into teach-ins, and that's sort of what it's always been with cafeteria culture. There've always been teach-ins, and we've always been sort of inviting people into the success of our movement.
And if I may just back up for 1 second, just ask you, cafeteria culture is what? I mean, I know how it's represented in the film as far as they're the ones that seem to be applying the educational aspect to it. But what is a cafeteria culture as an organization? And then what, the film came after?
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I often jump right into the middle of it. So that's right. So cafeteria culture is the organization who is delivering the environmental education, and this sort of bringing the environmental education conversation into schools that are on the front lines of the adverse effects of our climate crisis. I mean, we all are, but they're really feeling it.
So cafeteria culture first, film second.
Right, film second. But as cafeteria culture, we've always made short movies. Our YouTube channel has over 30 million views on it because of Atsuko's first movie, which is on our channel, which is called School Lunch in Japan. Yep. I don't know if you were able to,
Yep, I saw that, yep.
So, oh, good. So that movie is such a great glimpse into the beginnings of how we started. And the whole idea that students have a sort of a sense of gratitude and stewardship of their own cafeteria, of their own eating space, and that they sort of, it's part of the learning day, and that learning how to eat and socialize with one another and take care of the food in a certain, a more grateful way and less of an institutional kind of way, is what Atsuko, as our Japanese
the director
filmmaker, yeah, she's our media director, and so that's what she brings to it. And Debbie Lee then came together when we started Cafeteria Culture. We started as our organization was called Styrofoam Out of Schools, or SOS, but then we did that in New York City. So we sort of helped spearhead a movement to engage a lot of other large stakeholders to get rid of styrofoam in schools. And we did it not through legislation, but we did it by our school food district, which is New York City Public Schools, which is the second largest deliverer of meals in the United States after the US military. So it's the US military, then New York City Public Schools comes second. Okay. So it's amazing. And so to think about that as a model for change, like, oh, wow, if that unwieldy big school system can do it, and they, 1.1 million students are in that school system with countless, I should know this, but countless, languages spoken, many cultures, everybody, and a high level of food insecurity, probably everywhere now more than ever.
Yeah.
So they're able to do that. And so then and as you saw in the movie, if you stacked our 850,000 meals we served every day, it would be 7.5 times higher than the Empire State Building, which is not insignificant. So the fact that we helped school food come up with collecting with the Urban School Food Alliance, where they elevated their buying power. And so now I think another school, I think Seattle just joined, so it's maybe 11 school food districts now. So
sorry,
yeah.
After you.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna, go ahead.
I just wanted to lead into a question. I mean, well, kind of open it up a little bit. You've brought up a lot already for at least to start nibbling on the edges of people. I was thinking about doing just somebody raise a hand and they can, one at a time unmute themselves and ask a question.
Yeah.
If that works for you, or if you'd like to Okay, great. So Rhonda's brought up a lot of parts, and the movie brings up a lot of different aspects as well. I really do like the fact, like you say, you teach them facts, but you teach them processes, and that's the part that I love the most. And so they can apply those things to a lot of other aspects, and not just to what they're working on. So does anyone have a question or want to hit upon an element that Rhonda had just mentioned, or? I've got a ton more. I just didn't want to, I just want to make sure I didn't dominate the conversation.
I know. And
all right, no, all right. So anyone raise a hand if you do. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have a question. I love the film, and I've only watched the first 45 minutes because that's how long my class is. So I'm trying to see. I'm
are you a teacher?
I am. I'm a 4th grade teacher. I'm actually in New York City. I'm trying to get a screening in my school, and I actually worked out in Jamaica Bay with Dan.
Oh my gosh. So this was so familiar to you.
Yeah, I worked with Growing Wild NYC out with Emily Fano. But anyway, I've never seen the movie. And so I'm teaching my 4th graders about citizen science, but I'm in a private school now. I've worked in public, and my children were in both. And one of the things that I'm seeing is what the children are talking about, at least in the part that I saw, sorry, I don't have the whole thing, is litter as opposed to consumption. And it's, I think, going to be easy for my students to think that litter is something that is in other neighborhoods. And I'm wondering how to straddle that.
Okay, I can't wait until you finish the movie.
Okay.
Because, no, it's okay. Because that is, we were at a school where there were some behavior issues, and we had to fast forward, and kids in the end took the message away because we skipped over a really meaningful part where kids were still internalizing it like it was their fault. And, go back to the Native American crying in the commercial about litter, where we put the fault on the consumers, right? Instead of on the producers. But there's a beautiful aha moment in the movie. I hope it was aha for everyone, where the students realized, oh my gosh, we're paying for this twice. And, why is it our responsibility? Like, okay, yes, we should litter less, but they should make less of it. Like this is being made as garbage. So that aha moment is so meaningful. And yes, and then there's a whole part about textiles. And
yes, that's great.
And did you see that in the first 45 minutes, is there the fact that it's found in our own poop?
No, it ends right. It ends right. So I was loving the fibers and the microscopes. I have questions on where you get those microscopes. But when it was when we were just seeing the litter, and the classrooms look different than their class. I mean, the whole thing, right? Yeah, and so, and they clean up litter, and it seems very whatever. So, okay, great. So I'll hang out and address that.
And in fact, I come from a rural area in Virginia originally, and I thought I want to get this to there because, how do we reach red districts? Because people have, Judith Enck just spoke, the wonderful Judith Enck, who used to be the head of EPA Region 2. And now she teaches at Bennington College, and she recently spoke and said, she's met plastic pollution deniers, but she's never met, she's met climate change deniers, but she's never met plastic pollution deniers. It's something we can all agree on. It's a problem. Yeah. And so it's just a matter of, saying to people, okay, maybe you don't believe this connects to climate change, but it's gross to look at. And maybe you think this happens somewhere else, but guess what? It's in all of our poop.
Yeah.
And we even have found recently, it's been found in human placentas. So it's everybody's problem. It's not just people who live in those neighborhoods. It's everybody's problem. So yes, that's a great, great question. And I hope we address it in the movie. I can't wait to hear your feedback if you feel that we do.
I'm trying to get a screening for tomorrow.
Oh, well, I hope you're in touch with Marjorie because she's really quick. Okay, good.
If people can mute their microphones unless they're speaking, that would be great. We're hearing conversations in the background there. Thank you.
And if you, can you tell me your name? I'm sorry.
That's got to be Lauren.
It is Lauren. In my bed because I have COVID.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're so chipper.
Yeah, terrific.
What school do you teach at?
I'm now teaching at St. Hilda's and St. Hugh's up on 114.
I'm going to have Marjorie be on the lookout for that.
She knows. I'm going to talk to her after this.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Anybody else, any other school teachers out there that have, I mean, I thought one of the things about this film is, one of many of the things about this film is that I found it very inspiring for a school teacher to kind of see the systems and the methods used in order to maybe apply to their own classrooms as something, and it's something as rudimentary as your own lunch, every lunchtime, and just to then make you think about, no one doesn't have lunch. So every school, no matter what age, what grade, private or public, everyone's got lunch. And so I thought, what a great motivator to think about your own school and how you can bring it to your own, affects everyone right there, right then. So,
Amen.
Got a question?
Roberta, yes.
Yeah, so I actually do teach in Providence. I teach middle school science. And one question I had is just what was just being mentioned. Are you able to show the film? And is it free of charge or?
Our movie right now is it's free for Title I schools, but
well, yeah,
we have other. Yes, go ahead.
That would, yeah, we fit that category.
You fit that? Okay. So I'm going to put in the chat right now a link for hosting a screening, and feel free to follow that and sign up, and we can get you started, with hosting a screening. We've hosted in 37 countries around the world. More than 20,000 people have seen our movie now. With our film festivals, from September of 2019 until April-ish of last year, March, definitely, about 3,100 people have seen the movie. But then starting with the pandemic, and we started with more, we really upped our technical game, and we're able to host screenings and share the link so that schools could watch it asynchronously or synchronously. And students watched with their families. They had school-wide conversations at some point, different schools, but it upped our game. I mean, more than 20,000 viewers so far, and counting.
Great.
I mean,
and we actually had to after having your screening last year, a couple of screenings last year, we had a lot of interest by schools contacting us, going, "How do we get that?" And we started to negotiate dates and times, and when it was a matter of contacting you to try to get you involved, and then COVID hit, and all our films are canceled in school screenings. But this was really resonated with a lot of teachers and wanted to do something with this film. So
yeah,
I hope COVID doesn't stifle that motivation on behalf of the teachers. But
right. And we've also created a lot of, as we're working from home, we have more time and we've created a lot of remote learning resources, word searches for students, if they have, and things that we're really mindful of students who don't necessarily have the means to print out things at home. So there's a lot of online work. And then we also created just recently a DIY litter survey, which is where you can go out and collect litter, but also litter data. And that's like the most important thing that we teach our students, that that good data drives policy. It also drives behavior change, institutional behavior change. So when we're in the cafeteria and we're starting a sorting system, we measure how much is going all into the same trash bin before we start our sorting program. And then once we sort it, like we were at a school, it was a K through 12 school, and they had 350 pounds of garbage every day in 27 bags. And then after we implemented the sorting program, they went from 27 bags a day, 350 pounds of garbage in 27 bags to it was less than 9 pounds in 2 bags of just going to the garbage. So the rest of it was just from.
And you talking about that brings me up, while I was watching the film, rewatching the film again, it came across my mind as kind of a fun game, kind of, I don't know, of possibly to do with your classes, is that come up with a trash king. Basically, seeing the kids pick up the trash, and there's a Dunkin' Donuts cup, and there's a Mountain Dew bottle, and there's a Poland Spring bottle, and you go, okay, wouldn't it be funny to have a collection and then say, all right, Dunkin' Donut is the trash king of this month because we picked up the most of that, and kind of using that as a negative of try to, that Dunkin' Donut to be aware that so many of their things are getting thrown away in a very environmental way, of responsible way. So, but that just crossed my mind while watching, because you're looking at brand names and you're like, Dunkin' Donuts, come on, how many cups are we gonna see? So.
Exactly. And we are, with our DIY litter survey, we give a couple of tips on maybe tweeting your results of your litter survey. If you say, oh, hey guys, hey Dunkin' Donuts, in 100 meters of sidewalk, we found, 4 Dunkin' Donuts cups, or we found 7 Dunkin' Donuts cups out of this much litter. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to change, sort of inviting them, right. Tagging them. It's public shaming, but it's also inviting them into the solution. Like, here, let's have a conversation about how you can fix this.
It's informing too. I mean, you can take it as shame, or you can take it as, oh, that's not good, and maybe, yeah.
Right.
So, anybody else out there? We got more people that kept joining, and that was wonderful. So I've been trying to pull a couple of names of people that I knew had asked me something before. I don't see her, and I don't see.
Hello, Mia to London. Hello in London.
Hello. So my background is a little bit jazzy. I need to take that off. I haven't actually seen the film yet. I'm very excited to. I run a blog called Aim Plastic Free, which is just kind of talking about plastic-free lifestyle and trying to encourage as many people to get involved. So I'm really excited to watch the film and set aside that time. And then I'm sure it would be really brilliant if we could take that conversation further and maybe do a little interview and hear from you. What are the next steps? How can other people get involved? I feel a bit like I can't contribute fully with this, having not seen it yet. But I'm really excited to share it with other people.
Well, we would love anybody who wants to reach out to us to reach out. I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and feel free to reach out to me. And if I'm not the right person, I can forward it. We have a very small organization, but we can.
Have you done international screenings? Have you?
Lots, yeah. Oh, 37 countries. I mean. Oh,
I'm sorry. I missed that earlier.
Yeah, no, 37 countries. Moscow. We were in the Himalayas. We were in, we've been in Germany. We've been in, South America. We've been, we've been in a country in Africa. I can't remember which country.
Japan.
Yeah. Yes, Japan. Lots in Japan. Our media director is from Japan, so we've had a lot of school screenings there. Those are, really our favorite is to do. We talked originally about getting distribution. How are we going to do this? But we really prefer to have a deeper engagement with audiences. And so we really like to have a Q&A with audiences so that we can really help them do some of our work. The idea was that we would have a lesson plan toolkit for teachers, but when the pandemic hit, we knew that kids would be needed to do a lot more stuff that they could do independently. So we started to tool our toolkits toward DIY kind of work.
Yep.
Which is really it's gratifying, because I think a lot of people are like, how are we going to fix this? Or how can I be part of the solution? And when they can collect litter and beautify their neighborhood, that's great, but it's so short-lived, or it feels that way, so that they can then collect the litter data and share it somewhere, have it themselves, and then share it, and they can do something with that. And it starts to show you. We have just put up this very sort of maybe the crudest part of our website right now, but it's called Recipe for Change. And it's a great way to sort of encapsulates the format of our teaching, which is like, look at the problem, collect the data to substantiate the problem, and using that data, come up with some solutions. Right. And then looking at your layers of solutions, like, because you're looking at data, then you're also thinking about the origins of each of those things. Like in the movie, you can see that the kids, I think it's in that movie, or is it in the short movie based on it, where the kids are like, wait a minute, we're gonna look at, I think some of this came from that deli over there. So then when they did the street litter cleanup, they're like, let's go to the deli. And then they did a reusable bag giveaway at the deli, and they talked
Right.
about why single-use plastic bags are bad, all that stuff.
Okay. So, and Roberta, so just so everyone knows, raising your hand, I'm new at this. So they have this little button on the bottom here. You can raise your hand and then I can see it next to your name. I think it might even last you act up, but because I can't see people, I can only see 5 people and we have more than 5 people. So I'm not ignoring you if you've raising your actual hand and I don't see you. So we've got a hand raised. And so I think that's Roberta. And there we go.
Yeah, thank you. I've got actually a question from that. I was thinking that one date I saw was 2017. So thinking the students are now 8th graders. I'm wondering if you have tracked them and have seen that you've grown student activists or social justice activists, because it did seem to me like the focus again was environment, but it was also you're giving voice, collecting data, and then empowering students to talk before to council members. So wondering about that. Also, the other thing is sort of not related, but I was in Baltimore at that time, and there was a high school level led protest teach-in to stop the styrofoam bags. And I was just wondering if this was, I think this was about the same time, was this a more nationwide movement of K-12 students leading action?
Well, we do get a lot of requests from students and from people leading students, like, how do I get rid of black bags in my school? How do I get rid of styrofoam trays in my school? That kind of thing. And we do try to write back very thoughtfully to each one and nurture those relationships if we can, because those really motivated people are such a gift in this world. And I'm sure this whole group of people who were attracted to watch this movie that we're all the same, we're all part of that clan. But I will say that there was a school in Alabama there was a student there, a 6th grader or 5th grader, who wanted to do a litter cleanup. It was driving him crazy. And so he found our DIY litter cleanup toolkit and said to his teacher, let's do this. And then after they did it, then they wanted to watch Microplastic Madness, because that was their way in to us, to the work that we do. So yes, we are not just we are attracting people who are already of that, who are already inclined to be activists, young activists and advocates, but we are also, our students, we are tracking them somewhat. Obviously, we can't keep in touch with all of them. We've tried a lot, especially now that our students are in 8th grade, because they're applying to high schools. And in New York City, high school are citywide, and the process, like, they may go to a high school near their house, where they live, or they may go somewhere else, like in the city entirely. That's just the way the whole process works, which is exciting for them, but it's harder for us to keep track of. So we're sort of scrambling this year to really keep in touch with them. We've been trying every year, and we get more and more. But yes, the kids that we've kept in touch with have definitely done more. We've given all of them opportunities to do stuff with us, because we have opportunities to speak, and people are always asking us for students who can do it. And in fact, one of our students who was not at PS15, but at an earlier school when we were getting styrofoam out of schools, she is a senior in high school now, and she spoke 2 years ago at the climate march, right on the same stage as Greta Thunberg. So she had this huge, she's a Bangladeshi, from a Bangladeshi family. She's born here in this country. Oh no, she was born in Bangladesh. So she spoke about, climate crisis and climate, immigrants, and in connection to the work that we do. So it's beautiful. And we're getting requests for her all the time. So we do have youth advocates. We have who work with us after school, not just graduates from our program, but other students that have been attracted to the program. And we've done 3 podcasts with them. That's our most public facing work we've done with them. But we're getting ready to do a mural with them at one of the schools.
And because I'm a phone programmer, I need to ask you this. I mean, this topic, the way you've handled the topic and the way you've involved kids you can involve kids of all ages. Are you thinking a different microplastic 2, microplastic 3? I mean, you could do multiple variations and approaches from different angles in different parts of the world. I don't know. Are you thinking about doing any other, inspiring stories of other classrooms doing something, or any type of teachers doing something, or?
Well, we're always making movies, short movies with what we do. You can see our YouTube channel that has all the latest movies, and we're in the middle of piloting a new program called Desktop Lunch Survey, which is the cafeteria like food waste audit. But this is just with your own, because people are eating lunch at their own desks. So we're looking at our lunch and then we're adding math lessons to that. So we're piloting with 5th graders, and then we're about to start piloting it with a high school math teacher. We're going to pair with him, and he's going to help us develop math lessons where we can sort of take the amount of plastic in one person's lunch and then do it by the whole class, and then sort of get the average amount of plastic in that class, and then use that average to extrapolate out for how much in the New York City public schools. Now, if you're doing that, if you have a private meal delivery service, if you're a private school, you could do it and affect change really easily, like by talking to your food service provider and saying, could you choose some different options for us? And then you could say, why don't you try offering this for your other schools that you serve? And then you can sort of extrapolate out the benefits, and you can even start to think about how to calculate not just the per unit, savings, like the reduction in units of plastic, but then also like the carbon footprint of each of those units of plastic. And then there's so many ways to go with it.
I know. So when you say putting movies on all the time, you're saying you're short films on that?
Yes, those are short. Yes.
Okay. And then, not to diminish the importance of short films. Short films are amazing, but then is there some kind of rhyme or reason behind method behind the short film creations? Are you saying today we tackle, and tomorrow we're going to do something about that? Is there
mostly the short films are for the purpose. It's like a how-to, so that teachers who are amazing and heroic and are reading a million PDFs about what to do next. Sometimes it's better if you can show a video that's 7 minutes long average, and then they can also share that same thing with their students, and so they can see it in action. So mostly our videos are for how to. And in fact, when we did Plastic Free Lunch Day in the movie, we did another Plastic Free Lunch Day afterwards because school food was very excited about it at New York City Public Schools. And we were about to do a citywide Plastic Free Lunch Day in May of last year, but the pandemic had other ideas. Right. They're still on board for doing it. So we are still on board for calculating the amount of plastic per student to really see if we can give them some data that they can use to base their decisions on, to back their decisions up.
Sure. And it still kind of makes me go, really? A day is hard to do? A day? I'm like, how about not a day? How about a week? Can we shoot super high?
Well, I mean, like, really, that's the idea, is that we make it a regular day, right? Like,
right.
And that's the way we do it. Like, really, we start with piloting something. We helped start Trayless Tuesdays, just to get rid of those styrofoam trays for a day. And so that we had those like paper boats. And so they based the menu on that. So they thought, Trayless Tuesdays. How could we do this every day? This is crazy. Why do we need to put those plastic, those styrofoam trays in the waste stream every day? So
right. Wow.
It just expands people's
expands, mine as well. And I don't go for a walk any longer without having a plastic bag with me to pick up the trash all along the way.
Oh, that's so great.
I swear, I can't go for a walk and not pick stuff up anymore. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's in the gutter. That's just going to go into the confined sewer overflow. So I'm like,
right.
So, all right. Anyone else out there? I don't.
Right. Rumi had a hand up, I thought, earlier.
I thought I saw one too, but I don't see Rumi.
Rumi's up. Yeah.
I'll keep chatting it now. I got a ton of things. One of the things too, also, because I'm more about movies, but that's my job. Is what films, what documentaries have you ever watched that inspire you to action, that maybe you do what you do today? Just you, What did you watch as a kid that may have gone like, oh my goodness, if I don't become the next Norma Ray, you know, or whatever.
Okay, so one of the movies that I could just cry when I think about is Agnes Varda's The Gleaners and I.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just thought about how, you know, if for anyone who hasn't seen it, she's doing a documentary about people who go through trash, basically. I mean, and then there are so many forms of that. They're right. There are people who go through trash and they resell it. They fix items they find in it. They, in the U.S., you know, we have a great organization in New York called Sure We Can, and I'm on the board of that, where people, you know, go through the trash and they redeem the cans and bottles that that people leave in there that they've put a deposit in for. So, and then she talks about like gleaners throughout history, like, you know, the incredible Dutch paintings.
Yeah.
After the harvest, they traditionally let people come in to glean, to take whatever the machines didn't get.
Or the small potatoes that didn't make it, or the rotten apple that had a worm in it, and they're like, and they made efficient use of it all. It's a fantastic film. I that's one of my favorite. Agnes Varda is amazing, but
oh my God,
really,
I know, amazing.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, we got Kim had a question, her hand.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say how much I love the film.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I am a documentary filmmaker, and I see a lot of microplastics. I'm currently working on a film about piping plovers. And so the amount of plastic that the shorebirds are ingesting, and I have so much footage of plovers running through garbage, and it's just on any given beach. I film at about half a dozen beaches, and it's just really, it's something I've been thinking about for a while, is just putting together all this film of plovers running through plastic.
Yeah.
You know, rotten balloons that are all wadded up, and you know, it's just but I also, the film that I have in the Providence Children's Film Festival, I just learned something that was really sad also from the I work with this group in Mexico called Butterflies and Their People, and they're arborists. They're the forest, they're the custodians of one of the monarch butterfly biosphere reserves.
Oh.
And they're very interested in protecting the forest, where there's a lot of people who want to replant the forest, but they're not really doing it very correctly.
Oh.
But one of the big problems that they have is all the plastic bags left behind by the people who are not planting the forest, replanting the forest in a very good way. So it's so interesting to see how you're, you know, influencing these children at such a young age to be so aware of the impact that plastic is having on all of us. So, and because of the wildlife that I work with, I just see it, you know, just from all the way through their little life cycle. Because so, like the piping plover chicks, they're about the size of a marshmallow running around on the beach, and they're pecking at everything. That's how they can eat within their precocial birds, so they can eat within several hours after hatching. So they're pecking in the sand constantly and looking for insects and things like that. And I know that they're ingesting microplastics, because anything that's a little bit shiny or moves or whatever in the wind, they're going to peck at it and eat it. So it just, I don't know, I've just been thinking a lot about this lately. So it was I just thought your film was great and so interesting. And I love seeing how the kids we're just so enthusiastic and so energized by what you're doing. So it was very interesting.
And I want to just jump in here for a second, because Kim Smith, this is Kim Smith, I assume, then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Hi, Kim. So Kim has she has a film in the film festival this year, is doing very well. That was great response of people. It's called Beauty on the Wing: Life Story of the Monarch Butterfly, and it's a very deep dive and film into the life cycle of a monarch butterfly, but also captures so many beautiful moments. You're stunned into colored silence because of the picturesque, everything from the flowers to the butterflies to what they do. And it's a great antidote to kind of the stressful times we're going through right now. I just found it a very zen moment to just get in with the butterflies and just like, oh, let's just focus on a butterfly right now. And it's really well done. And so, she has a feature film, and this year is running for Best Documentary. And just wanted to let you know that, Rhonda, because I know she was from last year. Rhonda Dorante's film was in from last year.
Yeah.
So
wow, congratulations on that. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out.
And then Lauren, I think, is back with a hand.
Oh yeah.
Rhonda, I just wanted to clarify, when you said that there was the school and after they did their audit, they went from so many bags down to 2 so quickly, was that they were diverting, and you were talking about sorting it. Does that mean that they were deciding between landfill and recycling, or was the overall number down?
They were sorting it into the bins that were available to them, which they had an organics collection that they just weren't using.
I got it.
So that was back when the Department of Sanitation in New York City was taking organics. So they've discontinued the brown bin collection because of, just for everybody knows, because of COVID, is what they're saying, because of budgetary constraints. And it just wasn't the way they rolled it out. It wasn't, they didn't have a high participation rate. So, so anyway, they were collecting at schools, but they had a high contamination rate of organics in schools, you know? So we had student leaders standing there saying, oh no, actually that goes here. And, you know, which was incredible for social emotional learning as well. Like students were feeling a sense of, you know, for some students, the cafeteria is very hard, difficult place, you know, at lunch. And if you give them a role, if it gives students a role, then it gives them order instantly and sorting and people think, oh, kindergartners can't do it, but that's what they're doing in kindergarten. They're sorting.
Great.
They're starting to sort according to like things. So it's perfect for kindergartners.
That's great.
Yeah. So it was.
And then my second question was, when you're in the schools, how long is your program?
It depends. It really depends on we do not have anything that's out of the box. We try to create toolkits so that people can accelerate what they're doing if they're doing it on their own. But in terms of when we go to schools, it just depends on the grant that we get. This one grant that we had with PS15, the school in the movie, our original, when we first started with them, it was a grant from EPA Region 2, and it was a trash-free waters grant. Now it's called plastic-free waters because we separated from the EPA. But that was a bigger grant. So we worked with 3 schools, and we were there for the whole year. And
so that's their science program for the year.
Well, it's not there. We were there once a week.
Oh, okay.
We were only there once a week. And so what we wanted to do, and what we're doing more and more, is we're connecting with the teachers to begin with, so that it can be part of the core standards that they're supposed to cover anyway. So that it's not, we have to carve time out of our schedule. It's actually going to reinforce, hopefully, lessons with real world like application to what they're doing. You know, like for instance, when the students at the beginning of the movie met with the Department of Sanitation and they gave them all those charts and graphs, they were 4th graders in the spring. And so they were learning to chart and graph. And so we said, can they use their own data? And can you do a lesson with them? So they did that completely without us. And they used their own data for their own purpose, which is to convince the woman from the Department of Sanitation to put recycling bins in a public street in their neighborhood where they weren't putting, and where they don't really have garbage cans, you know, in certain neighborhoods, they don't really put garbage cans on the street, but they did it. She agreed to do it because of their, you know, request. And that's a level of advocacy and activism too, that they educated her about the problem and quantified it And then the good story at the end of that, which you can see on our short movie called We Are Citizen Scientists, where they got to the third after they did, they did 2 litter surveys on the street where they collected litter and litter data, and they characterized what kinds of litter were there, and they thought about what actions they wanted to take. And we took actions, including making plays at that time that were from the plastic that we washed, and they created their own like little characters, like sea creatures and how it hurts them. And then we went to a senior place and did the plays. We did at the library, we did presentations for elected officials and community boards. And then they also did banners. And those banners maybe were the most effective because it was just like for somebody right then and there, not to litter. And they then did a third litter survey, and then they could quantify that they reduced the litter by 40% in those areas. So that it was not just like a feel good thing from people going, oh, nice. It was like, dude, this is serious. We've got hard numbers to prove this.
That's great.
Yeah.
I had one more film question, so I don't see any hands here. So I found it amazing how do they in the film, how were they able to gather so many different people from different places, from the woman, the scientist in Toronto, to the guy with the sailboat who sails around the world, to the EPA lady, our former EPA lady, and how, I mean, they were all really passionate experts in their field, and yet they seem so not New York oriented. I don't know, what was the touchstone to get these different people together?
Well, we are invited as Cafeteria Culture. We're a tiny organization, but I guess that with our impact and our knowledge of like our like ability to share findings in a very non-confrontational but impactful way, when students are bringing the knowledge, there's so many aha moments, not just with the students going, wow, I affected adults, but the adults. So not just with in their own neighborhoods,
yeah,
of their neighbors and aunts and uncles and parents, but also with elected officials. They're like, what? I didn't know this, and I can't believe you knew it and I didn't. But so we are members of organizations like, so that EPA group that I was talking about, we were a member of Trash Free Waters, which was an offshoot of the EPA Region 2. And so there were a bunch of scientists and, eco groups that were involved in that. And so we, as a member of that,
you could network
organization, we were able to network in that way. And we were invited to other ones like in Chicago. And
well, it really worked. I mean, they were such an eclectic group of people that were really approachable for kids too. They were interesting people. They weren't just scientists talking about, and I'm sure that's partly of the direction of Atsuko and the editing and the,
yes,
all kind of, but it was such a interesting grouping. And I was like, wow, how did you go find that person in Toronto and this guy who's sailing the ocean? And so it was really, really worked well.
Yeah. And I want to say that it's a co-directed, it's Debbie Lee and Atsuko, and Debbie Lee, who's the executive director and founder, and Atsuko, who's the media director, co-directed and co-produced the movie. And like the two of them are like the dream team. I can't even imagine, because Atsuko is not only an amazing media person, but she's also like, she's the mastermind behind the detailed waste audits that we do. Like, how are we going to collect the data and how are we going to show it? Like, that's amazing. And then Debbie Lee's ability to put stuff together in the big picture is out of this world. So like the two of them together.
Well, thank you for correcting me. I it was a co-produced, right? With that
It is, yes.
Debbie Lee. Okay.
Yeah,
Roberta, I see a hand up there.
Yeah, I was just made me think when you're talking about the film, one thing I liked was a lot of different things going on. The students were centered, but having these guest scientists coming in, having the student like artworks where you're doing like animation. I'm not sure the right word is.
Yes.
That Early on, I saw a little byline that said film by student, like I think when they're on
Yeah.
the beach, but then I didn't see it again. And I'm just wondering how much, how many opportunities that the students have to be the film, videographers or be, the film. And what do you think about that?
Everything we do have, the students have cameras. So we have these cameras. And so there are other places where it says student footage, but I even miss it myself for like, it's just like, we put a little thing because we want to make sure that people know that students are doing that. It's not really a media production class per se. So we don't like, we give students like the basics of it, and it's like what we get is it's very raw, very like whatever they're used to. And kids are pretty savvy about media because they're watching YouTube, and so many of them have their own YouTube channels. So yeah, so they're doing that a lot. We have to like, we started giving them feedback after their first time with the cameras because we're like, okay, stop zooming in and out, I'm going to get dizzy. But things like that.
It was great though. I think that's great. I missed it later on, but I think it's great to have them. And like, I imagine though, it is a lot of work having to edit what they've contribute, but it is a good thing too.
Yeah. And we do with our middle school students, with our EPA grant, we have a middle school in East Flatbush in New York where out in Brooklyn, and there was a middle school student. A couple of years we had middle school students who actually edited a piece that, from all the footage that their peers gave them. So
You saying kids are media savvy is that's an understatement. They kick my butt. I mean, oh my goodness. It's like you went, kids are ridiculously media savvy. And I think that's why, incorporating them like that is really clever, because that does get them to own it and get them, as long as you get a steady cam, a little bit of something to steady out the camera a little bit. That's a great way to get them involved.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming up on 1 hour. That's we're going to try to keep it into an hour here, but anyone else have any parting thoughts or well wishes, or I don't see any hands going up. So getting used to this thing, and I'm sorry again for saying that. Raise your hand, and people might be doing this, and I'm like, I have no idea. Well,
I wanted to say also to the teachers, if they haven't checked out your website, I spent a lot of time on there, and you guys make it so easy. I mean, you've got the questions for the kids and broken down by the grades, and something especially where kids are still distance learning, and parents and everybody are trying to find things to keep kids busy. I was just really impressed with all the resources that you guys provided. So definitely check out the website.
Oh yeah, and I just put a link on the chat, our remote learning resources, and we're adding more to that all the time. We're putting together this weekend a whole page of all of our resources because everything's not there. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about, oh, you know what? We just started, as I said, the recipe for plastic-free change. I'm just going to put that in the chat in case you want to bookmark it for later. And we also, this is really important. We also have a take action page, which sort of alerts people to local actions that they can take so that like there's national legislation right now called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, which really can help curtail a lot of plastic that's being produced. It's going to be a tough sell because there's a bipartisan bill, which really means industry friendly at this point, with that. But it talks about how you can support that. I think you can use the DIY litter survey to tag your senator. I don't remember if who is you have White House and
Reed, Jack Reed.
Right. So I don't know if they support the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act yet or not, but anyway, you can see, and if they do, you can thank them on social media and tag them with the litter thing. Thanks to you're going to help us get rid of this, or hey, if you signed on to this, that would help, eliminate these problems.
Right. And Kim, you got a hand up?
Well, it's not related to this. I just wondered if I'd missed something. Is there a Q&A with the lighthouse, the last lighthouse keepers?
No, he's his schedule was loaded up, so yeah, he was unable to do it for this week. But
Okay, I didn't want to miss it if there was.
you
Well,
bet. No, you got the microplastic one. We're going to be seeing you, Kim, on Saturday. Looking forward to that at 3 o'clock, the same time. So tying together the passion of documentarians together here.
Yay.
All right. Well, that I want to thank you, Rhonda, very much for coming and talking. And I know just I don't know, how do you clap on this?
I know. I don't know.
But
Thank you all.
it's super informative, and thank you for, I mean, I'm glad you put the links there, because that's usually the number one question afterwards is how can I get to that page? And somebody also asked about the Agnes Varda film and the title, The Gleaners and I. So if you get a chance to see The Gleaners and I, definitely a different pace film, slow down and really take it in. It's really quite a memorable film. And yes, and I hope any teachers here, I hope any organizations or anybody here from an organization that is interested in doing something with cafeteria culture, please reach out, Rhonda, there. Like, if you didn't see the passion today about what they're trying to do, then you didn't have your camera on or something. I don't know. So yes, so well, thank you all, and hope you're able to enjoy a few more movies, and then I hope to see you for Kim's on Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Hey, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
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 Thank you.